make us define ourselves narrowly or as part of some kind of monolithic structure, usually which doesn't exist or which is much more complicated than it appears. I'm just kind of rambling now. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, based on stuff you said earlier, as an Orthodox Jew who wears a yarmulke, has a beard, wears the tzitzit, the fringes down to my knees, perhaps I create a lot of anxiety for many secular Jews that I interview, because all the time I hear from many completely secular Jews, I'm a proud Jew, and the only people who ever say that to me are people who are Jewishly ignorant. Like, no one with any background in Jewish text or, anything substantial ever says to me, I'm a proud Jew. Only people who are ignorant say, I'm a proud Jew.
Interesting. So it's a defensive kind of statement?
Yeah. And
like, you can't take away from me, I'm proud, and I'm...
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Wonder if they view themselves as ignorant or if they view themselves as well-versed in some other element of a tradition that you might not see as, sort of central. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, almost nobody views themselves as ignorant, so I'm sure you're right.
Well, yeah, I do. But, clearly, there's a body of writings that is, central to Jewish tradition. But, for instance, what if I was to say, well, I'm ignorant of Scripture. I'm ignorant. I haven't read the Talmud. I don't go to synagogue, but I've read every book written by a Jewish author published in the last 150 years. What kind of, where would that fall in the scope of knowledgeable or ignorant? Or is it irrelevant? Not that I'm saying I've done that, but... No.
I hear what you're saying, and... I'll just leave it as a question mark. That's certainly a formidable grounding of knowledge in things Jewish to read so much by Jewish authors. That's formidable. But it kind of reminds me of. Have you ever been to a baseball game in the Bay Area?
Mm-hmm.
The San Francisco Giants game, they often yell, "Dodgers suck, Dodgers suck." That never happens in LA.
Right.
And I've never heard anyone say, I'm proud to be a heterosexual.
Right.
So it's people who feel judged who say, I'm a proud Jew, I'm a proud gay, I'm a proud black.
So what does that mean? So what you're saying is that it's coming from a feeling of persecution or marginalization?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking out loud.
Yeah.
It's saying something because, people who are secure in their identity don't say, I'm proud, whatever it is. But people who, for whatever reason, are feeling insecure in their identity, such as gay or black or Jewish.
I guess that's true, but I think the natural next question I would think would be to ask where that insecurity comes from, right? Look at the Black Power movement of the 70s, which was really largely about a reaffirmation, a reclaiming of, a standard of beauty that would valorize blackness. The great anthems of that movement largely are things like "Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud" by James Brown. So I think the question would be, where does that necessity of declaring yourself proud and affirming your identity come from?
Well, there's a need. I feel zero need to say I'm a proud heterosexual because I've not, 90% of the population is not gay. It's the other way around. So people who are saying that, it comes from a very strong need, right? Yeah.
Now, I think the unique thing about the situation you're talking about in terms of secular Jews is who they're saying it to, right?
Yes.
I think that of these examples, that's the only situation, Dodgers, Giants, heterosexual, homosexual, black, white, right? These are all sort of groups that are clearly divided, not groups that the outside world tends to lump together, right? So right. The notion of a sort of an mural discussion among Jews where that kind of statement needs to be made, I think is interesting and in some ways unique, in other ways not, because, there's a discussion in the black community about who's black enough and what the appropriate, forms of what the criteria should be. Like, is Barack Obama black enough? But I think ultimately those conversations are pretty divisive. Certainly in the black community, the idea of having to qualify and quantify why it is that you were black enough is something that most people are trying to kind of eliminate, right? Like, let's get away from that. And I wonder about the relevance of that conversation in the Jewish community. It seems ironic that, amidst all the anxiety about dwindling numbers and the survival of the culture and the religion, that there should be this move to, grade everybody and tell people who might feel Jewish that they're not Jewish enough.
Well, let me throw an opinion at you and get your response if you care to. As a convert to Judaism, when I look at Jewish history, the rigorous always went out. Like, it was Moses imposing his rigorous will on the rebellious 12 tribes. It was the rigorous Maccabees triumphing over the assimilating Hellenistic Jews. It was the Jews of the Talmud and the Pharisees who survived the destruction of the temple. And in America today, it's the Orthodox Jews who are not assimilating, while the rest are on a path towards assimilating. So I think that's why it's like it's built into the very Jewish DNA, this constant challenge: are you Jewish enough? What do you think?
That's interesting. I mean, I don't know that. I mean, the last piece of your example, the Orthodox versus the assimilating. I don't know how much. I would have to ask you sort of how you see that as paralleling these other moments in history that you highlighted. Is it just is it?
Well, I mean, there's a midrash, I'm not sure if it's factually real, that most Jews did not leave Egypt with Moses 3,200 years ago, that, most stayed behind. But anyway, it was like Moses who formed the 12 tribes into a nation. And now in America today, I mean, intermarriage rate among Orthodox Jews is virtually zero. Among the rest of Jews, it's at least 50%. Like, Jews who have been to Israel, I mean, say Orthodox Jews under 18, like, at least 50% have been to Israel. Non-Orthodox Jews, it's like 10%. So, like, by any measure, concrete measure of commitment to a Jewish identity, the Orthodox are overwhelmingly stronger than the non-Orthodox. And so the Orthodox aren't going to assimilate. Like, there's no question that in 500 years there's still going to be Orthodox Jews. What is not at all clear is whether there will be conservative Judaism, Reform Judaism, or even modern Orthodoxy in another few hundred years. Like, there will definitely be Satmar Hasidim, in 1,000 years. It's not at all clear that there will be Reform Jews in 1,000 years.
Huh, that's interesting. I mean, certainly that fear has been around. I grew up hearing the expression, show me 3 generations of Reformed Jews, right?
Right.
That's sort of the shorthand formulation of that fear.
Yeah.
And, I can show you at least 3 generations in my family, if not 4 or 5. But I guess, I think certainly everything you're saying makes sense. I guess one question I would have would be, you said something like by every
definable measure of.
Right. I guess I'm wondering, what, if anything, I mean, what would be the sort, if you were to sort of try to think up the most sort of out of the box measures that you could, that you might not even think make any sense, what would they be? I mean, clearly things like intermarriage, or visiting Israel are very, make a lot of traditional sense as barometers, but are there any others? And if so, what would they be? Or what would be some that, you might want to...
Being literate in Hebrew?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a huge one.
Okay. But what would be some really wacky ones?